categories of witnesses to the New Testament that are other than the Greek manuscripts include three things. First are versions, second are patristics, and third are other. Let me start with other because that's the one that we can dispense with easily enough. The other category involves things like talismans, which were essentially ancient lucky charms that people would use to ward off demons and this sort of thing. And those talismans often had scripture in them, especially from the book of Revelation. But New Testament scholarship does not regard talismans as serious witnesses to the New Testament text. So for the last 50 or so years, they have not been regarded at all in trying to determine the wording of the original text of the New Testament. Besides the talismans, what else belongs to the other category would be ostraca, the text of Scripture on other than actual manuscripts, that is, not on parchment paper or papyrus, but on broken pottery, on walls, cave walls, on stone, this kind of thing. The last item in this other category would be early Christian papyri in which they quote from the New Testament, but the papyri themselves are not the text of the New Testament. And we have early Christian writers writing to friends and quoting from this passage or that passage. And so far, those have really not been cataloged or really even examined by New Testament textual critics. Now, the broad categories that are very important besides the Greek New Testament manuscripts are the versions and the fathers. As far as the versions are concerned, what this simply means is the translation of the New Testament into other ancient languages. And a version, therefore, is the translation of the Greek New Testament into Latin or Syriac or Coptic. Those are the three leading versions, or Ethiopic, Georgian, Gothic, Old Church Slavonic, Arabic, Armenian, all sorts of different translations. And these versions, as I said, the most important ones are going to be the Latin, the Coptic, and the Syriac, and that's in part because they are direct translations from the Greek, and in part because they are the earliest translations that we have of the Greek New Testament into these other languages. We'll see the importance of the versions when we discuss in a later lecture the textual problem of 1 Timothy 3:16. The fathers, or the patristics, is the last category of non-Greek manuscript witnesses, and these are quotations from the New Testament by church leaders, bishops and presbyters and deacons and scholars of the ancient church as they're writing either commentaries or homilies, sermons. And these church fathers, for the most part, are broken down into three languages: Greek or Latin or Syriac. Now, the church fathers, we have them as early as the late 1st century. And they go all the way through, typically the 13th century is normally how they're canoned. But the church fathers are in a little bit of a different category than the versions because it's not the continuous text of Scripture. They are quotations. Now, it might be lengthy quotations from Scripture, but they need to be treated a little differently from how the versions are treated. I'll discuss the problems and the value of versions and the problems and value of the church fathers in later lessons.